Hi, this is Lauren with Verivest, and today I'm sitting down with Ken Gee from KRI. Welcome. So excited to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So let's just get started. I'd love to know a little bit about your background story, your origin story, and how you got here or where you are today.
Sure. So growing up, my mother had worked for an apartment developer. And so as a kid, I got occasional odd jobs around the complexes, rock hounding and things like that. So, but I didn't really understand what real estate was, right? To me, then it was a lot of hard labor. So I wasn't too interested until I got my undergrad degree in finance, went to Cleveland, and then worked for a bank for 5 years as a commercial lender. And I started hearing my clients talk about real estate nonstop. And so then I got my graduate degree, became an accountant, and went to work for Deloitte for 7 years in their Cleveland office, and that is a huge real estate practice. So again, I had client after client after client, just being tremendously successful in real estate. So I thought, you know what, there's something to this. So I spent about a year and a half trying to figure it out, taking all the courses and networking and doing a lot of the things that you should do when you first start out in a business like this. Mm-hmm. And then decided to buy my first property, and bought it at a small neighborhood called Shaker Square in Cleveland, Ohio, and bought it, made it, fixed it up, made it nice, sold it 3 years later, made more money than I ever thought would be possible at that age. And right. So then fast forwards maybe 10 or 15 years ago, we decided we had bought many properties in the Cleveland area and sold them and basically done the same business plan that I just described. 10 or 15 years ago, we started to look into Florida because Florida is a growing area. So we did the exact same thing after an enormous amount of research, started buying assets there. And that's where our focus is in now. So that's kind of how I grew up in it. Now we manage approximately 2,000 units in the central and northern Florida area.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely quite a growth there from your first property in Cleveland to 2,000 properties in Florida. That's amazing. What would you say, how do you source deal flow? What is your acquisition strategy that you use?
Yeah, good question. So the type of deal we look for is value add. It's very similar to the strategy that I employed back in 1997, and we just kept fine-tuning it over the years. So we like to find a property that has some management upside and with some physical improvements that we think we can improve the NOI of the property, either through rent increases or expense reduction or both, and usually it's both. In the Florida market, it's generally mostly on the rent side. So that's how we, as you know, apartments are valued based on their ability to produce cash flow. And so if we're able to improve that cash flow, then the value of that property is going to go up. And that's basically how we make money. Now, how do we source our deals? It's kind of interesting because our company is vertically integrated. So we not only invest for our own and with our investors, but we also manage for third parties. And so because of that, we've been able to develop a really unusual relationship with the broker community throughout our markets, in that we not only buy and sell from and through them, but we also help them with their clients become successful. So when you develop a relationship with someone that not only you're their customer, but you're actually kind of part of their team to help them be successful and grow their practice, you get a very different relationship. So what happens over time is, we build trust with them, and then when deals come up that they want to get done with a seller that really doesn't want a difficult transaction, they want somebody who's going to treat them fairly, we get the call. So we do that a lot, and that's been tremendously successful for us. And then of course we do the standard networking, calling on property owners and just, hey, would you like to sell kind of thing. So it's a combination of those two, but I would tell you that broker community, that deep network that we have, has been really, really productive for us.
Oh, great. Yeah. And I know you mentioned that you work a lot in Florida, but what would you say are your key markets that you operate in, and why do you choose those markets?
Good question. And it's central and northern Florida is where we're focused right now. Basically, the criteria is a growth market. we could, there are many states in the Southeast that have that meet that criteria. Texas is another example, but we're currently focused in Central and Northern Florida. I believe in really getting to understand a market and operating there in a really big way, so that when opportunities do come up, that we understand them and we're able to capitalize on them. Now, the market, what makes that market so good is the demand supply issue that goes on there. And probably most everybody knows Florida is a growing market. People are moving into Florida left and right. And so we buy generally value add BC class assets. So we have increasing demand for our product. Nobody's building BC class assets because they can't afford to. So most of the people that are moving to Florida are just normal people, and they need a good place to live. So we have increasing demand, no change in supply. It just helps create a bull market for us, and then we apply our value add strategy on top of that, and that allows us to be tremendously successful. So that's kind of why we're focused there. It really starts with the demand supply equation that works really well in our favor.
Right. Oh, that's great. And what would you say is your investment philosophy? How do you determine whether a deal is worth doing?
Yeah, good question. We do the value add stuff, and we've always done that. We have done occasionally the buy and hold strategy. That's not the way you really make the most money in real estate. You know, in our world, we're looking for that upside. We're looking for a property that really is leaving some money on the table. Maybe they're not running it very well. Maybe occupancy isn't where it should be. You know, it's all the management related things that we can focus on. And then the physical improvements. You have to have a vision for the property. You know, okay, it looks the way it looks now, but what if you change the colors? What if you use paint to make it look better? What if you added a much better amenity package? What could it be? So that's really what we're looking for, is that upside. And it's kind of fun because it gives you a chance to be creative and actually have fun making something better than it was when you started.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. Definitely, whenever I'm looking for a new rental property, I'm looking for, the amenities or kind of those higher upgrades that they have. So that's great to hear. And how would you say that you generate value once you've made the investment? What's your risk mitigation strategy?
Sure. So whenever our business model, remember, we also do management. So we're very focused on the management side, because everything is, we can put all the possible business plans on paper that we want, but if we don't have the ability to execute in a really big way, it's not going to go well. So we focus a lot on execution. So that means that we're going to look at the property and we're going to start renovating well, first of all, we're going to focus on occupancy. Let me start there. Even during our renovation periods, we're always staying over 90%. Rarely do we go in, throw half the people out and start over. We don't think that makes sense. So when you have a well-occupied property, it's just cash flow that's there that will also supplement your renovation activities. So number one, we always focus on occupancy. So that's the best way to preserve investor capital. That's the way to mitigate risk, to just stay full and make sure you have cash coming in the door. Then when we do our renovation plans, we always start from the outside in, right? You think about it. Somebody's driving around looking for a place to live. Curb appeal matters. So you need to really get them. I call it, you had me at hello, right? Remember the Jerry Maguire movie? That's what we try to do. We try to get them at hello, grab them emotionally, give them an incredible amenity package for whatever type of property it is. And then after we do that, then we take them to the unit and we improve the unit. But, the unit isn't as important. I mean, they have to have a beautiful place to live inside, but you've got to be able to get them with the front door. So we start with an outside-in strategy, and it generally works very, very well.
Great. And, my last question for you is, who are your key players involved that allow you to execute your acquisition and asset management strategy? Sure.
So I would say it's our team. Remember, I talked about the vertical integration and the management piece being the execution. I mean, we have 50 or 60 people that are employed by us throughout, our various properties in Florida, and we have an extremely well-developed network of contractors, and that's the key. The key is to get people to do it at a fair price. They'll make you a priority over everybody else, and just make sure that we execute. And so our processes are really very carefully designed to make sure that we have accountability all the way through the company, to make sure that we're always putting rents where they should be, and we track that constantly. So it's that execution piece that is so critical to this business that I think a lot of people tend to ignore because they look at the buy and the sell as the fun part, and it is,
Yeah.
but getting it done is equally as fun, and we have those people in place to make sure that happens.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. Definitely having a very strong team behind you really helps make the work.
It sure does.
Good.
It sure
Yeah,
does.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today. It's been great to hear a little bit more about KRI, and we look forward to working together.
Same here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely.